Hey everyone, welcome to this first and hopefully not last devlog for Lenstracker. Lenstracker is an application that we're building live on Twitch, and if you want to get along for the ride, then you'll find the link down in the description. So what is Lenstracker? Lenstracker is a way for you to monitor how long you wear your contact lenses. As you can see, I'm wearing glasses because I'm pretty bad at wearing contact lenses, so I need to train my eyes so that I don't have the urge to scratch them out when I wear contact lenses. This first devlog will basically walk you through what we did in the last month and a half, hopefully. Let's get started. So let's talk about the tech stack. As of recording this video, the tech stack is as follows. For the whole application, we are using Adonis.js, which is a backend framework written in TypeScript that kind of feels similar to Laravel. It has some pretty nice standards, it has a bunch of packages that do a bunch of things. As for CSS, we are using Tailwind CSS, and we'll probably also use some Alpine and Unpoly, but we'll get to that once we have implemented them in the application. As for everything that concerns databases and stuff, for now, while we're in development, we are using SQLite because it's easier to set up. And once we move on to production and staging, we'll do probably either MySQL or Postgres. And that will depend on how many relationships we have, the amount of data that we probably will need to store, and all that kind of stuff, and how we store them, right? Do we use JSON? We go full relationships? That will be decided later on. As for the ORM, we are using an ORM that is developed by the Adonis.js team, which is called Lucid. Okay, so now I'm in the projects repository. Okay, so you can see there's the README, there's all that kind of stuff. So let's do a bit of a walkthrough of what we did. Right, so we installed Tailwind. Obviously, you can see the Tailwind config file right there, and then we configured some stuff. So let's look at the models, for example. So we have the user model, which is pretty basic, right? We have an ID, full name, email, and then since we are only working with OAuth providers, because I don't want to store passwords, I don't want to set up email password reset things, right? So we only do GitHub and Google authentication. And then we have obviously created that, updated that fields. And then we have this relationship. We have wheres. And let's actually look at that model, because this is the next model that we'll be working on, and the one that we spend most of the time working on in this amount of time. So a where, as of the way I intend it to be, is a session, right? Each time you wear your contact lenses, it will create a where instance. So a where instance, as of today, obviously, has a start date and an end date and a user ID. And then we can query them and retrieve them and everything else that you'll see in the demo after all this walkthrough is done. So that's the models. And we didn't do much else, right? We wrote some migrations where we just create the tables, we create everything that we need, right? So we create a Google ID, a GitHub ID, and both are nullable because you can either log in with Google or GitHub, but you can also log in with the other one, and then we do some matching based on the email. Because if you forgot that you had created an account with Google or GitHub, you try to log in with the other provider, then we don't want you to create a second account, right? We want to match the existing account with the new provider, and that happens with the email. Actually, let's take a look at how that works. If we go to the auth controller, then we have a login, which just shows the login page. Then we have the redirect to provider, which is the function that determines how you can redirect to Google or GitHub or whatever other provider basically we want to use. And this function uses Ally, which is another package from the Adonis.js team, which handles basically OAuth stuff. So we redirect, and then once all that is said and done, we trigger the callback function, right? So we go to the provider, we log into the provider, we authorize the application to use that said provider, and then we come back to the application, and so we need to basically do some stuff with it. So we can retrieve the user that was set back with the driver, and the driver means the provider, right? So GitHub, Google, Twitter, or whatever else. So we get their user profile, then we try to match them to a given email, we check if the user exists. And if it doesn't, then we create it and we populate all the stuff that we need, and then we save it. We don't do anything if the provider changes, right? This is something that we'll do later on when we come back and do some basic refactor. But the one thing that I want to do first is have something that is a minimum viable product, basically an MVP, right? So we have the user, and then we create the user, and if it's Google or if it's GitHub, then we get and populate some different data. For example, for Google, for now, we don't get the username from it because we haven't set up the scopes for it yet. Then we save it, and then we authenticate and redirect back. And that's as far as we go with that. The next section that took us a bit of time was the where, right? So creating the wheres for the user, having them modifying it, having a little bit of validation, and that kind of stuff. And this is where there was a bit of a problem, which basically meant that we couldn't really validate that the user was inputting dates because we are using an input type of datetime local, and that's not how the validation library that we're using works. We'll probably switch at some point, but for now it kind of works and it's fine. So when we do create, so we show the page, and then you'll see what I mean by that. And then we go on to the edit section and authenticate the user. Then we find the where that the user wants to edit. If the user IDs don't match, then basically it's an error, right? And then we render the edit view. And this is one point that took us a lot of time to figure out on stream, which is that the start date and end dates for this kind of stuff for datetime locals needs a different formatting than usual. And so we had to manually format the dates to say, okay, when you go there, then the start date needs to be years, month, day, and then hours and minutes, because otherwise the input doesn't take the right value. Then we have the update stuff, which is, okay, so we edited it and now we want to save it. And so that's how we do it. We update the values and then we save it and redirect back to the index. And then store is the method that we use to create the initial instance. So as you can see, we don't do any validation for the user because, I mean, we're creating one from scratch, right? So I hopefully believe that the user is the right one. And this is a console log that shouldn't be here. So let's remove this, and this shouldn't be here either. You didn't see anything. Then we create the where, and then we redirect back to the index page. And then destroy, basically the same thing as update, right? So let's remove all the console logs because we don't need them anymore. And then we just redirect back. And then we have everything that is related to the front, right? So everything that is displayed to the user. Right now we only did the logic section. So we have Tailwind, as I said before, and we have our app.css right here. So we have our 3 Tailwind import components, and then we have a basic pattern that we created that we can then reuse everywhere. And we'll probably move this to custom components from Edge, which is the templating engine that we're using for this project, but that will come at a later date as well. And concerning Edge, we have a basic layout, and this right here is pretty interesting, right? This right here is the Vite directive, because we use Vite under the hood to bundle all of our CSS and GS, and so we need to import them in our application, and that is how we do it. Then we have a bit of styling, right? And then we can define if for that particular page we want a header or not. So if we want a header, then we display it with the menu and all the links and all that kind of stuff. But if we don't, then we just show the main section. And that's it for the code. So how about we do a bit of a demo and see where we're at today. Okay. So this is the website as it is now. This is the login page. And once we get there, we can simply sign in with GitHub and we get redirected back to it works on stream. And then we need to set up some proper navigation, which is probably something that we'll do in this stream right now. If we go to the where section, then you can see that we have a table with some dates and we can delete or edit, but we can also create a where. So we can where them and we can say, so it's today from 4 p.m. to today at 5 p.m. And once we create them, then we can go back here, refresh, and we can see the new elements. And then if we can delete them, then it disappears, then we can edit them and all that kind of stuff. And this is basically what we've done. And the last stream that we did working on this project was a mostly silent stream where I just worked on some CSS and banged my head against the wall And this is it for the first devlog from Lenstracker. So if you enjoyed that, well, don't forget to check out the Twitch channel in the description, because, I mean, we recorded this live, right? So why not join in on the fun? And if you want to find some more stuff, all the VODs are also published on the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel. So you can also find them down below. Have a good one. See ya.